In the cozy embrace of a homey orphanage in San Francisco, the sun dips below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow through the large arched windows. The light dances on the walls, creating an atmosphere of both peace and melancholy. In a corner of a shared bedroom, an 8-year-old girl named Mia sits silently while hugging her beloved teddy bear, Rox. The soft, worn-out toy is her constant companion, a silent witness to her solitary existence. "Come on, Mia, play with us," calls one of the girls, her voice bright with excitement. Mia looks up, her large brown eyes meeting the hopeful gazes of the other girls. She manages a polite but timid smile, shaking her head slightly. The girls exchange glances, a hint of exasperation in their eyes. "She never wants to play," one of them mutters under her breath, loud enough for Mia to hear. Mia's heart sinks. She wants to join them, to laugh and play, but a barrier of shyness and insecurity keeps her at bay. She looks down at Rox, squeezing it a little tighter, seeking comfort in its familiar softness. The other girls resume their games, their laughter echoing around the room, but Mia remains in her corner, lost in her own world. Suddenly, a ripple of excitement sweeps through the room. Mia's ears perk up as she catches snippets of conversation. "Did you hear? A new girl is coming," one of them says. "Yeah, her parents died in an accident. She's an orphan now, like us," another one adds. Mia's curiosity is piqued, mingled with a sense of sorrow for the new girl. She understands the pain of losing her parents all too well. The next day, all the girls are gathered in the common room by the orphanage director, Mrs. James. She is a kind, mother-like figure with a warm smile that can soothe any child's fears. "Girls, I'd like you to meet Paula," Mrs. James announces, her voice gentle yet authoritative. "She's 8 years old and will be joining our family." Mia expects to see a gloomy, broken child, but to her surprise, Paula steps forward with a bright smile that lights up her entire face. Her blue eyes sparkle with an unyielding spirit as she waves at everyone. "Hi everyone, I'm Paula. I hope we can all be friends." Her enthusiasm is infectious. The other girls immediately flock around her, eager to welcome her into their group. Mia, however, hangs back, watching from a distance. Paula's magnetic presence intrigues her, but her innate shyness keeps her rooted to her spot. Days pass, and Paula has quickly become the center of attention. Her cheerful nature and kind heart make her a favorite among the girls. Mia, on the other hand, continues to observe from the sidelines, finding solace in her teddy bear. One afternoon, as the girls are playing in the yard, Paula notices Mia sitting alone under a tree. "Mia, would you like to play with us?" Paula asks, her voice full of genuine warmth. Mia looks up, startled. She opens her mouth to respond, but no words come out. She just stares blankly at Paula. Before Mia can muster a reply, the other girls interject. "She prefers to be alone," one of them says dismissively. "She never joins us." In Mia's mind, she is screaming that she wants to play, to be part of the group, but her lips remain still. Paula, sensing her hesitation, gives Mia a reassuring smile. "It's okay, Mia," she says softly, reaching out to hold her hand. "Take your time. We'll be here when you're ready." A few nights later, Mia wakes up to the sound of soft sobbing. She sits up, her senses alert, and follows the sound to the kitchen. There, she finds Paula huddled in a corner, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mia's heart aches at the sight. "Paula?" Mia calls out gently. Paula looks up, hastily wiping her tears away. "I'm fine, Mia. Go back to bed." But Mia can see the pain in her eyes. She slowly approaches Paula, wrapping her small arms around her in a comforting hug. "You're not alone, Paula," Mia whispers, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm here for you." Paula clings to Mia, her sobs growing louder as she finally lets her guard down. Mia holds her tightly, rubbing her back in soothing circles. After a while, Paula's crying subsides, and she begins to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. "I miss my parents so much, Mia. Every day feels like a nightmare. I try to be strong, but it's so hard." Mia listens intently, her own eyes filling with tears. She understands the pain all too well. "My mom passed away when I was little," Mia shares, her voice soft but steady. "I never knew my father. After my mom died, I lived with my aunt and her children. They didn't want me. I was just an extra mouth to feed. One day, a neighbor noticed how badly I was treated and called the authorities. That's how I ended up here. Paula looks at Mia, her eyes wide with empathy. I'm so sorry, Mia. I didn't know. It's okay, Mia says, offering a small smile. We've both been through a lot. Every girl in this place has. But we're here now, and we all have each other in this home. We can get through this together. Paula nods, a spark of determination lighting up her eyes. Yes, we can. Thank you, Mia. The two girls sit in the kitchen, holding each other as they share their stories and their pain. At that moment, a bond is forged between them, one of understanding and mutual support. From then on, Mia and Paula became inseparable. Mia's gentle and mature nature complements Paula's bravery and cheerfulness. Mia reminds Paula to be careful and polite, while Paula encourages Mia to be more proactive and expressive. The other girls notice the change in Mia. She begins to open up more, not just to Paula, but to everyone. Mrs. James watches the interactions with a satisfied smile. The transformation in Mia is remarkable, and it warms her heart to see all the girls getting along so well. One day she approaches Mia and Paula as they are playing in the yard. You two have become quite the pair, she says, her eyes twinkling with affection. Paula grins her arm around Mia's shoulders. Mia is my best friend, Mrs. James. I don't know what I'd do without her. Mia blushes, but she smiles back. Paula helped me come out of my shell. I'm really grateful for her. Mrs. James kneels down to their level, her expression serious but kind. You girls are very lucky to have each other. Remember, you're part of a family here and we all care about you. The girls nod, their hearts full of gratitude for the home they have found in the orphanage and each other. 2 years pass and the girls continue to support one another. Their bond only grows stronger, and they become known as the heart and soul of the orphanage. They bring out the best in each other, inspiring the other children with their resilience and friendship. One evening, as they sit by the window watching the sunset, Paula turns to Mia with a thoughtful expression. Mia, do you ever wonder what our future will be like? She asks softly. Mia ponders the question for a moment before responding. I used to worry about the future a lot, but now, with you by my side, I feel hopeful. Whatever happens, I know we'll face it together. Paula smiles, a sense of peace settling over her. You're right, Mia. Together we can overcome anything. That night after dinner, an unusual buzz fills the air. Mrs. James, the beloved director, gathers all the girls in the common room, her warm smile laced with excitement and a hint of nervousness. Girls, we have some very important guests coming next week, she announces. I want everything to be perfect. We'll need to make sure the facility is in tip-top shape, and I expect everyone to be on their best behavior. The girls exchange curious glances, wondering who these special visitors could be. Paula, with her ever-cheerful demeanor, nudges Mia, who clutches Rox, her teddy bear, a little tighter. Who do you think they are? Paula whispers, her eyes sparkling with intrigue. I don't know, Mia replies softly, but they must be important if Mrs. James is going to all this trouble. For the next week, the orphanage whirs with activity. Mrs. James is meticulous, issuing reminders to the staff and the girls, ensuring every corner of the facility is spotless. The girls, eager to impress their mother figure, diligently follow her instructions, their anticipation growing with each passing day. Finally, the long-awaited day arrives. The girls are gathered in the common room, their eyes wide with curiosity, as they watch a group of middle-aged men and women step out of elegant cars. The visitors exuded an air of sophistication, their clothes impeccable and their demeanor composed. Remember to be polite and well-mannered, Mrs. James reminds them, her voice gentle yet firm. These guests are very important to me. The girls nod, their excitement palpable. As the guests enter the orphanage, they are greeted with warm smiles and polite hellos. The afternoon unfolds smoothly, with the girls mingling with the visitors, sharing stories and even playing board games. Laughter echoes through the halls, filling the orphanage with a sense of joy and camaraderie. Mia and Paula stick close to each other, observing the guests with a mixture of fascination and admiration. They can't help but notice how the visitors seem genuinely interested in their lives, asking questions and listening attentively to their answers. As the sun begins to set, most of the guests say their goodbyes and depart, their visit leaving a lingering warmth in the air. However, one couple stays behind, requesting a private conversation with Mrs. James. The girls, their curiosity piqued, gather in small groups, whispering and speculating about the significance of the day. "Do you think they're going to adopt someone?" one girl asks, her voice hushed. "Maybe," another replies. "They seem really nice." Paula and Mia, sitting on the steps of the common room, share a quiet moment together. They watch Mrs. James lead the couple into her office, the door closing softly behind them. "This must be how it feels when a mom brings people home from work," Paula jokes, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Mia giggles, the sound light and musical. "Yeah, I guess so. It's like we're part of something bigger." Their conversation is interrupted by the office door opening. Mrs. James and the couple emerge, their expressions serious yet hopeful. The couple's eyes scan the room until they land on Paula. Mrs. James walks over to them, her smile warm but her eyes betraying a hint of emotion. "Paula," she begins softly, "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson would like to speak with you." Mia and Paula exchange surprised and questioning glances. Paula follows them back to the director's office. The Thompsons, a distinguished-looking couple, smiles warmly at her. "Hello, Paula," Mrs. Thompson says, her voice gentle. "We've heard so much about you from Mrs. James." Paula, ever the brave one, stepped forward. "Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. It's nice to meet you." The Thompsons look at each other, their expressions softening with affection. "We've been looking for a family," Mr. Thompson begins, his voice steady. "And after spending the day here, we feel that we might have found one." Paula's eyes widened, a mixture of hope and disbelief swirling in her gaze. "You mean?" Mrs. Thompson nods, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We would be honored if you would consider becoming part of our family." The room seems to hold its breath as the words hang in the air. Paula feels a surge of emotions, her heart swelling with a mix of joy and fear. She glanced at the door where Mia must have been waiting for her. Paula squeezes her hands tightly. "Mia and I are best friends. We've been through a lot together. We don't want to be separated." The atmosphere has taken a poignant turn. The arrival of the Thompson couple has stirred emotions that the children, especially Paula and Mia, are still grappling with. As the adults realize the depth of the children's bond, they share a knowing look. Mrs. James, ever perceptive, interjects gently, "This might be a surprise for Paula. She may need some time to think it over." Mrs. Thompson nods in understanding. "Of course, we can wait and we will visit again," she says, her voice soft and reassuring. Paula, however, remains stoic, her face a blank mask of emotions. Mrs. James leads the Thompsons to their car, offering words of gratitude and farewell, while Paula walks briskly back to Mia, taking her hand firmly and pulling her towards their shared room. "Mia, let's go," Paula says, her voice trembling despite her efforts to remain composed. Mia, perceptive and wise beyond her years, gently tugs her hand back, causing Paula to turn around. "Paula," she begins, her voice a soothing whisper, "do you really not want to be adopted by the Thompsons?" Paula tries to maintain her stoic facade, but the tears she has been holding back begin to stream down her face. Her resolve crumbles, and she lets out a sob. Mia steps closer and wraps her arms around her best friend, holding her tightly. "It's okay, Paula," Mia murmurs, rubbing her back gently. "I'm so happy for you. The Thompsons seem like very nice people, and they genuinely care for kids like us." Paula buries her face in Mia's shoulder, her sobs intensifying. "But I don't want to be adopted, Mia. I don't want to leave you. I just want to stay with you." Mia pulls back slightly, cupping Paula's tear-streaked face in her hands. "Our hearts will always remain together, no matter where we are, just like how it has been for our parents. We are physically apart, but always together," she says with all the tenderness she could muster. "You know that, right?" Paula nods through her tears, her emotions pouring out in a torrent. I know, but it still hurts. I don't want to lose you. Outside their room, the other girls watch silently, their faces a mix of curiosity and empathy. Mrs. James stands a little apart, her heart aching for the children she has come to love as her own. She understands the gravity of the moment and feels torn between wanting the best for Paula and the pain of separation that Mia and Paula are experiencing. Inside the room, the girls continue to hold each other, finding solace in their shared grief. Mia, always the gentle comforter, whispers words of reassurance. We'll always be best friends, Paula. Nothing can change that. Not distance, not time. Paula clings to those words, repeating them in her mind like a mantra. Eventually, her sobs subside, and she pulls back slightly, looking into Mia's eyes. Promise me, Mia. Promise me we'll always stay in touch. Mia nods, her own eyes glistening with tears she has managed to hold back. I promise, Paula, always. Just then, Mrs. James knocks softly on the doorframe. Girls, may I come in? Paula nods, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Mrs. James enters, her face kind and understanding. She sits down on the edge of the bed, looking at both girls with deep affection. Paula, Mia, she begins gently. I know this is a very difficult decision, and whatever you decide, we will support you. The Thompsons are willing to wait until you feel ready. Paula sniffles, her voice still shaky. Mrs. James, I don't want to leave Mia. She's my best friend. Mrs. James nods, her eyes softening. I understand, Paula, and it's important to honor your feelings. But I also want you to know that being adopted by a family like the Thompsons doesn't mean losing Mia. It means expanding your family. You'll have more people who love you. Paula looks at Mia, searching her eyes for reassurance. Mia smiles, her expression filled with unwavering support. She's right, Paula. We can still be best friends, and you'll have more people to care for you. Paula takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself. I just need some time to think. Mrs. James places a comforting hand on Paula's shoulder. Take all the time you need. There's no rush. The rest of the evening passes in a blur of emotions. The girls continue to process the day's events, their minds swirling with thoughts and feelings. Mia and Paula spend the night huddled together, their whispered conversations offering each other comfort and strength. The next few days are filled with a mix of normalcy and underlying tension. The Thompsons visit again, spending more time with the children and giving Paula space to make her decision. They are patient and kind, never pressuring her, which makes Paula feel more at ease about the potential adoption. One evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow over the orphanage, Paula finally speaks her heart. She and Mia are sitting under their favorite tree in the yard, the gentle rustle of leaves creating a soothing background. Mia, Paula begins, her voice steady but soft. I've been thinking a lot about everything. About us, about the Thompsons. Mia turns to her, giving her full attention. What have you decided, Paula? Paula takes a deep breath. I think I want to be adopted by the Thompsons, but I want you to know that it doesn't change anything between us. You're my sister, Mia, and nothing will ever change that. Mia smiles, a mix of sadness and pride in her eyes. I'm happy for you, Paula. Really, I am. And I promise, we'll always stay in touch. We'll write letters, call each other, and visit whenever we can. Paula nods, tears welling up again. But this time they are tears of acceptance. Thank you, Mia. You're my rock. The two girls hug tightly, their bond feeling even stronger at that moment. They know that their friendship will withstand any challenge, and that no matter where life takes them, they will always have each other. When Paula shares her decision with Mrs. James and the Thompsons, it is met with warmth and understanding. Mrs. James hugs her tightly, whispering words of encouragement. The Thompsons smile, their eyes shining with joy and gratitude. We're so happy, Paula, Mrs. Thompson says, her voice thick with emotion. And we promise to make sure you stay connected with Mia. We're all family now. Paula looks over at Mia, who is standing with the other girls, smiling and cheering her on. She feels a surge of love and gratitude, knowing that she is truly blessed to have so many people who care for her. As Paula prepares to leave the orphanage, the girls gather around, offering hugs and well wishes. Mia stands at the front, her heart full of mixed emotions. When it is finally time to say goodbye, the two friends embrace one last time. Remember our promise, Mia whispers. Always, Paula replies, her voice full of conviction. As the car pulls away, taking Paula towards her new life with the Thompsons, Mia stands by the gate, waving and smiling through her tears. She knows this isn't the end, but a new beginning for both of them. The orphanage feels a little different without Paula, but Mia holds on to the memories and the promise they have made. She continues to thrive, her confidence growing each day, inspired by the bravery of her best friend. Time has passed, and for the first couple of years, Paula keeps her promise. Letters arrive from various places, filled with tales of new adventures, new friends, and new experiences. Each one is a treasure that Mia reads and rereads, holding on to the bond that has carried them through their childhood. But as the years continue to fly by, the letters grow less frequent until they stop altogether. Mia writes back diligently, each letter brimming with her own stories and longing, but they remain unanswered. The phone calls she makes are met with silence or get redirected to an impersonal voicemail. She grows anxious, waiting for a sign from her best friend, but none comes. One bright afternoon, Mrs. James returns from a trip to the Thompsons' mansion, her face clouded with worry. She finds Mia sitting alone in the orphanage garden, clutching rocks, her beloved teddy bear. Mia, Mrs. James begins gently, I have some news about Paula. Mia looks up, hope flickering in her eyes. Did you see her? Is she okay? Mrs. James sighs, sitting down beside her. I'm afraid I didn't get to see her. Mr. Thompson has become very sick, and the family has flown to Europe to find treatment for him. Mia's heart sinks. But what about Paula? Why hasn't she written back? Why didn't she call? Mrs. James places a comforting hand on Mia's shoulder. I spoke to their secretary, but she couldn't share much. It's all confidential client information. I believe the Thompsons are doing what they think is best, but I'm so sorry, Mia. I don't know where Paula is right now. Mia's eyes fill with tears, but she tries to hold them back. So, we don't know if she's coming back? We don't know if she's okay? Mrs. James shakes her head slowly, her heart aching for the girl she has come to love as her own. I'm afraid not. But we mustn't lose hope, Mia. The Thompsons are good people. I'm sure they're taking good care of her. Mia nods, but the reassurance does little to ease the emptiness that has been growing in her heart. She stares down at rocks, squeezing the teddy bear tightly. I just wish she would tell me herself, she whispers. The days turn into weeks, and the weeks into months. Mia continues to write letters, pouring her heart onto the paper, but they remain unanswered. Each trip to the mailbox is filled with anticipation, only to end in disappointment. She clings to the hope that one day she will hear from Paula again. In the meantime, Mia throws herself into her studies and activities at the orphanage. She helps Mrs. James with the younger children, finding solace in their laughter and innocence. She has become a source of strength and comfort for others, even as she battles her own loneliness. One rainy afternoon, Mia sits by the window, watching the drops race down the glass. She holds one of Paula's old letters, the ink slightly faded but the words still clear. As she reads it again, memories of their time together floods her mind. Dear Mia, the letter begins, I miss you so much. I've made some new friends here, but no one can ever replace you. I hope you're doing well and taking care of everyone at the orphanage. You're always in my heart, no matter how far apart we are. Mia traces the words with her finger, tears slipping down her cheeks. I miss you too, Paula, she whispers to the empty room. That evening, Mrs. James finds Mia sitting in the common room, lost in thought. She sits beside her, offering a warm smile. Mia, you've grown into such a strong and kind young woman. I know it's been hard without Paula, but I want you to know how proud I am of you. Mia looks up, her eyes reflecting her inner turmoil. I just wish I knew she was okay, Mrs. James. It's so hard not knowing. Mrs. James hugs her tightly. I know, sweetheart. It's hard for all of us, but we have to trust that Paula is doing her best, just as you are. The days continue to pass, and though the ache in Mia's heart remains, she has learned to live with it. She discovers joy in small moments and strength in the love that surrounds her at the orphanage. And through it all, she never stops hoping for the day she will hear from Paula again. One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves turn golden and the air grows cool, Mia is helping Mrs. James decorate the orphanage for the upcoming fall festival. She climbs up a ladder to hang a string of lights, her mind focused on the task at hand. Suddenly, she hears Mrs. James call her name with an urgency that makes her heart skip a beat. "Mia, come quickly!" Mia hurries down the ladder and runs to the front door, where Mrs. James stands holding a small, weathered envelope. Her hands tremble as she passes it to Mia. "It's from Paula," she whispers, tears in her eyes. Mia's heart races as she tears open the envelope, her hands shaking. The letter inside is short, but the familiar handwriting brings tears to her eyes. "Dear Mia," it reads, "I'm sorry I haven't written in so long. So much has happened, and it's been hard to keep in touch. But I want you to know that I'm okay. We're in Europe, and my dad is getting better. I miss you every day. Please don't lose hope. You'll be home soon. Love, Paula." Mia clutches the letter to her chest, tears streaming down her face. She looks up at Mrs. James, her heart filled with a mix of relief and joy. "She's okay. Paula's okay." Mrs. James hugs her tightly, sharing in her happiness. "I knew she wouldn't forget you, Mia. She loves you too much." The letter brings a renewed sense of hope and strength to Mia. She continues to write to Paula, and though the replies are still infrequent, each one is a precious reminder of their unbreakable bond. Mia holds on to the promise that one day they will be reunited. Months later, the orphanage is alive with the laughter of children, their joyful sounds weaving through the air like a melody. The rooms and hallways echo with their play, filling every corner with vibrant energy. Mrs. James, with her warm and nurturing presence, remains the steady heartbeat of the home. Her kind smile and gentle words continue to provide the comfort and stability that the children have come to rely on. Meanwhile, Mia, now 14, has grown into a poised and thoughtful young woman. She moves through the days with quiet strength, her heart carrying the weight of lost connections, but also the warmth of cherished memories. Though the letters from Paula have ceased, leaving a silence where their words once flowed, Mia has found a sense of peace with the situation. One afternoon, as Mia sits under the large oak tree in the courtyard, she carefully opens a small wooden box. Inside are the letters and keepsakes from Paula, each one a precious reminder of their bond. The sunlight filters through the leaves, casting a gentle glow on the paper as she reads through the familiar handwriting. Her fingers trace the lines of ink, and a soft smile touches her lips. In her heart, Mia holds on to the hope that Paula is happy, wherever she might be. She prays for her best friend's well-being and success, imagining her in a beautiful place filled with love and care. The memories of their time together are like a tapestry woven with threads of laughter, tears, and shared dreams. In her heart, Mia holds on to the hope that Paula is happy wherever she might be. She prays for her best friend's well-being and success, imagining her in a beautiful place filled with love and care. The memories of their time together are like a tapestry woven with threads of laughter, tears, and shared dreams. Each moment is a treasure that Mia guards closely, bringing her comfort in Paula's absence. One evening, Mrs. James joins Mia in the courtyard. She sits beside her, her eyes reflecting the twilight sky. "Mia," she begins softly, "you've grown so much. I know it hasn't been easy, but you've handled everything with such grace." Mia looks up at her with a serene expression. "Thank you, Mrs. James. I miss Paula, but I know she would want me to be happy and strong. I keep her in my prayers and hold on to the memories we made. Maybe one day, if fate allows it, we will see each other again." Mrs. James nods, her heart swelling with pride and affection for the young woman beside her. "I believe you will, Mia. You have a bond that distance can't break, and until that day comes, you have all of us here." As the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky, Mia feels a sense of contentment. She knows that while life has its uncertainties, she is surrounded by a family that loves and supports her. The future is a vast, unknown journey, but with Mrs. James and the girls by her side, she feels ready to face whatever comes her way. In the quiet of the evening, with the sounds of the children's laughter still lingering in the air, Mia tucks the letters back into the box and closes it gently. She stands, offering her hand to Mrs. James. Together, they walk back inside, leaving the courtyard behind, but carrying the warmth of that moment with them. Mia's heart is light, filled with hope and the promise of new beginnings, even as she treasures the past. But one gray afternoon, a sense of foreboding settles over the facility. Mrs. James, the beloved director, stands in the common room, her usually bright eyes clouded with worry. The girls gather around her, sensing the gravity of the moment. Mrs. James takes a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly as she begins. "Girls, I have some difficult news to share. Our orphanage has been struggling financially for the past few years. The group of sponsors who have supported us are slowly withdrawing their support. Without their help, we may not be able to keep this place running much longer." A hush falls over the room. The girls exchange worried glances, their faces reflecting a mix of confusion and fear. Mia, the eldest at 14, absorbs the news with a heavy heart. She knew what it meant. She had seen the worry etched on Mrs. James's face for months, but hearing it out loud made it painfully real. "If we can't find new sponsors," Mrs. James continues, "we'll have to report our situation to the authorities. They will arrange for social workers to transfer you to other facilities. I know this place is your home, and am doing everything I can to prevent that, but we must be prepared for the possibility." The weight of the announcement settles like a dark cloud over the orphanage. The usual chatter and laughter are replaced by an oppressive silence. Mia looks around at the younger girls, their wide eyes brimming with unshed tears. Her heart aches for them, imagining the pain they will go through if they are forced to leave the only home they know. She can't bear to think of them feeling the same sorrow she and Paula had felt when they were separated. After the announcement, Mia finds herself standing outside Mrs. James's office. She hesitates for a moment, then gently knocks on the door. Mrs. James's weary voice invites her in. Inside, the director sits by the window, staring blankly at the gray sky outside. She looks older than her years, the burden of the orphanage's troubles etched deeply into her features. Mia walks over and hugs her tightly. The contact seems to break through Mrs. James's stoic facade, and tears slowly begin to fall from her eyes. "I have tried my best to keep this place afloat, Mia," Mrs. James says, her voice breaking. "I've looked for sponsors and applied for government support, but it's just not enough. Things just can't go easy, do they?" Mia offers a sad, understanding smile, trying to offer comfort in the only way she knows how. Mrs. James looks at her with warmth, but this time there is a deep concern in her eyes. "Mia," she begins, hesitating, "aren't you regretting refusing the adoption offers you had just to stay here for Paula? You wanted to make it easier for her to find you, didn't you?" Mia kneels in front of Mrs. James, taking her hands in hers. "Mrs. James, do you really think I stayed only because I was afraid Paula wouldn't find me if I left?" Mrs. James thinks deeply, her mind turning over Mia's words. The girl's loyalty to Paula has always been evident, but there is something deeper Mia is hinting at. The teenager giggles a warm sound in the otherwise somber room. "When I arrived here, I was scared and alone. I felt so small and weak. Then Paula came and broke my shell, helping me see the world in a better light. But Mrs. James, you were here from the very start. You guided us, nurtured us, and helped us find ourselves. You led us to good families and new lives outside this orphanage. Even as your hair has turned gray, you never stopped worrying about our well-being. You love us like we are your own. You have given us a family, a mother whom we cherish." Mia looks deeply into Mrs. James's eyes, her own eyes shining with emotion. "You are my mother, Mrs. James. The girls here are my siblings. Why would I want to leave?" Mrs. James hugs Mia tightly, tears streaming down her face as she wraps her arms around the girl who has silently supported her all these years. She has always seen Mia as a child who needed protection, but now she realizes the depth of Mia's feelings and the strength of her character. Fulfillment and pride swell in her heart as she holds Mia close. That night, in the quiet of the orphanage, Mrs. James let herself cry on Mia's shoulder. The young girl who has been a source of silent strength now provides a shoulder to lean on. They stay like that for a long time, the bond between them growing even stronger in their shared grief and love. As the days pass, the mood in the orphanage begins to shift. Despite the looming uncertainty, the girls rallied together, drawing strength from each other. Mrs. James works tirelessly to find new sponsors, her determination fueled by the love she has for the children in her care. Mia, with her quiet strength and unwavering loyalty, becomes a beacon of hope for everyone. One afternoon, as Mia sits with the younger girls reading them a story, the phone rings in Mrs. James's office. She answers it, her heart pounding with hope and fear. After a long conversation, she emerges with a smile that lights up her face. She hurriedly goes to the kitchen where Mrs. James and the girls are preparing for dinner. "We have new sponsors," she announces, her voice trembling with relief. "They've agreed to help us keep the orphanage open." Cheers erupt in the room. The girls hug each other, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Mia feels a surge of relief and happiness, knowing that their family will remain intact. Mrs. James looks at Mia, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Mia," she says softly. "You never gave up on us, and you never let me give up either." Mia smiles, her heart swelling with love for the woman who has become her mother. "We're a family, Mrs. James, and families stick together." As the sun sets over San Francisco, the orphanage is filled with the sound of laughter and joy once again. The future is still uncertain, but they know they can face anything as long as they have each other. 3 years later, the orphanage buzzes with excitement as another autumn festival approaches. Despite the previous challenges in keeping the finances stable with the new sponsors, things are finally settling well. The crisp autumn air carries the scent of fallen leaves, and the grounds are a flurry of activity as everyone prepares for the festival and the upcoming visit from some of their generous supporters. Mrs. James, ever the meticulous director, ensures that everything is in top shape. She walks the halls, checking every detail, while the staff and children decorate the grounds with colorful streamers and balloons. Mia, now 17, moves among the girls, her calm demeanor and gentle encouragement inspiring them to be at their best. She reminds them of Paula, the bright and optimistic girl who had once lived among them, using her story as motivation. "Remember?" Mia says, gathering the younger girls around her in the common room. "Act naturally and genuinely. An honest heart is what reaches another person." The girls nod, their faces alight with excitement and determination. As the afternoon sun dips low in the sky, casting a warm orange glow over the orphanage, the first of the guests' vehicles arrives. Mia's heart pounds with a mix of excitement, gratitude, and hope. She joins Mrs. James at the entrance, welcoming the guests with warm smiles and heartfelt greetings. The garden party begins with a simple yet elegant setup, transforming the orphanage grounds into a scene of laughter and joy. The children play games, their laughter ringing through the air, while the guests mingle, enjoying the food and company. As the sky turns from orange to twilight blue, a sense of accomplishment fills the air. The event is a success. As the moon begins to glimmer in the evening sky, Mrs. Leopold, one of the newest sponsors from London, approaches Mrs. James and Mia. She is a woman with a kind face and a gentle smile, her eyes twinkling with warmth. "This place feels like home," Mrs. Leopold remarks, just as Paula mentioned. Mia's heart skips a beat. "Paula," she asks, her voice trembling with emotion, "did I hear you correctly?" Mrs. Leopold smiles brightly at Mia and nods. "Yes, Paula. She's the one who motivated me to sponsor this facility. She always spoke of this place with such love, saying it brought warmth and hope to girls who have faced misfortune." Mia and Mrs. James exchange glances, their eyes wide with surprise and joy. Mia eagerly leans in, her eyes shining. "Can you tell me more about Paula? How is she?" Mrs. Leopold's smile deepens. "My daughter, Christine, met Paula in middle school. Despite her father being sick and their family facing financial struggles, Paula remained optimistic and loving. Christine's stories about her intrigued me, so I decided to meet the Thompsons. Over the years, our families have grown close, and Paula always mentioned the orphanage and her best friend Mia. She spoke of you often, hoping for your well-being." Mia's heart swells with joy and relief. "Thank you, Mrs. Leopold, for telling me this," she said, her voice filled with emotion. As Mrs. Leopold prepares to leave, She turns back to Mia with a twinkle in her eye. "Oh, I forgot to mention something. Since the Thompsons are doing a lot better now, they may be coming back here soon." Mia's heart thumps with renewed excitement and hope. She watches as Mrs. Leopold's car departs, her mind racing with the possibility of seeing Paula again. Mrs. James squeezes her hand, her eyes filled with knowing kindness. "See?" Mrs. James says softly. "She has never forgotten you." Mia gazes up at the glowing moon, her heart light with anticipation. The hope and promise of reunion fill her chest, and she whispers a silent prayer of thanks. The night is cool and clear, the stars sparkling above, and Mia feels a deep sense of peace. She knows that no matter what, her bond with Paula remains unbroken, and soon they will see each other again.